dead body is heavy. Even after it's been cremated, it's still kind of heavy. There is some heft to those ashes, or as they're called in the funeral industry, cremains. Isn't that a great euphemism for incinerated human corpse? Cremains. And this is just speculation on my part, but I think that most people who have decided they want to opt for cremation have also decided very specifically where and how they want their ashes distributed. And in the case of my late husband, Harry, it was on top of Cadillac Mountain in Acadia National Park in Bar Harbor, Maine, along with all of the pets we had had up until that time. And the thing with these scattering ceremonies is I think that they get romanticized in our minds in a way that perhaps is different than the reality of when it's happening. But let me go back to the funeral home for a second, because it starts there when you're picking out an urn. And just like picking out a casket, there's a wide variety of choices and price ranges. They have very expensive, ornate urns that cost thousands of dollars. And I knew that my husband would come back and haunt me if I spent thousands of dollars on an ornate urn. And on the other end are these very inexpensive cardboard canisters that have pictures of clouds on them. And I turned to my sister and I said, well, if I get this, I can always regift a bottle of wine in it when I'm done. And we chuckled. The funeral director chuckled. He said he'd never heard that one before. Probably used it at the next convention. So I decided on this modest urn that wasn't museum quality, but it didn't look like something you'd throw your change in either, because I was going to be emptying it out very shortly. So I have to plan the trip to Maine. Now, I was born and raised there, done the trip many times. And the reason he picked that spot is because when we met, I was 20 years old, a long time ago, and we met here in Pennsylvania. But not long after, I went home for the summer to work on the coast in Bar Harbor. And he took a road trip up to visit me, and he fell in love with the spot. So now the road trip, packing my car, put in my suitcase, put in some snacks, an urn containing the ashes of one adult male, 4 boxes of ashes with an Old English sheepdog at 3 cats, and a large Tupperware container to mix them all together in. After I get there, I rest for a day and then make the windy drive to the top of Cadillac Mountain. And the view is spectacular. You can see Frenchman Bay, the Porcupine Islands, the town of Bar Harbor. And even though it's in the middle of a national park, they do allow the scattering of ashes. So I take my now full Tupperware container and cram it into a backpack and start to hike down the mountain. And per park policy, as well as my own desire to have some solitude, I leave the trail and continue to hike down, looking up until I can no longer see the people that are milling around at the top. And I come to an ideal spot, the ideal spot. There's a rock where I can put the backpack. I can sit and rest for a minute because I need the rest. A dead body is heavy, physically and emotionally. Plus, I've hiked all the way down, and I look and see where I'm going to have to hike all the way back up and hope that my fat ass doesn't drop dead on the side of that hill in the pucker brush in this lovely spot. So I take out my nonstick serving spoon, dip it in, and start spreading ashes. 1 spoon, 2 spoons. And I think, oh, this is going to take forever. So I make the decision to hoist up the Tupperware and do it en masse, which is actually the appropriate term since it means all the people. And it doesn't have quite the dramatic spread effect. It's more like emptying the barbecue grill. And there it all is. And just about that time, this really lovely breeze starts to pick up. So I take the spoon and I bend down and I get one last scoop and I wave it in the wind, and the most beautiful cloud of dust rises up into the universe in this beautiful spot where a mountain meets the ocean on a sunny day. And I gave him the picture perfect send-off that he wanted. Thank you.